Welcome back to Freeway Findings, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing my World Series wrap-up video, and also I'm going to be going into the off-season, talking about what moves I think are going to happen, who I think is in for the Dodgers, who I think is out, who they sign, who they don't sign, who I think they should trade for, and who I don't want to be touched with a 39.5-foot pole. So we're going to start with that. We're going to start with the World Series. This World Series is going to go down as one of the most poorly managed World Series ever. I thought John McNamara in the '86 World Series was a horrible managing job. This takes the cake. Dave Roberts had 3 opportunities where he had a chance to win a game. Actually, even 4 opportunities where he had a chance to win a game, and he brought in a pitcher or did something that cost the Dodgers that game. And he almost cost the Dodgers game 3, that 18-inning game, by bringing in Kenley Jansen in the 8th, and he gave up the home run to Bradley. So he almost cost them that game. So essentially, he almost cost the Dodgers all 5 of the World Series games. But I can't come on here and yell fire him, because they're not going to fire him. And really, firing him would not be the answer, because a lot of people are saying this, and I think it has some truth to it, is that Dave Roberts is really just the guy who's representing the front office. They hand him all the lineups. They say, listen, you do this if this happens, blah, 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 blah. And Dave Roberts' only job really is to get along with the guys in the clubhouse and make sure they're not wanting to kill each other, which he has done pretty well in that. Before him, under Mattingly, Yasiel Puig and Matt Kemp hated each other, and now they're tight. So Dave Roberts has done his job there, but in crunch time managing, he failed, and he failed pretty big. I mean, even the president was tweeting about how bad of a job he was doing, so that really says something. So let's go to Game 4. I'm not going to talk about Games 1, 2, and 3. I already talked about them. Really, the mean of them is in Game 1, you took out your reliever who's on fire and brought in a guy who's prone to giving up home runs. And in Game 6, you didn't bring in your guy who's on fire, and the guy you brought in gave up a couple of runs. That's really what those first 2 games boiled down to. And Game 3, I already talked about that over on Sports. If you want to go see that, I'll have a link in the description to that video. But yeah, basically, so Game 4, Rich Hill was pitching amazing. I remember the times in the beginning of the season where you would say, Rich Hill's pitching. Well, that's a loss. Not anymore. Rich Hill could not have been any better. When you hold the best lineup in baseball to 1 hit in your 6 1/3 innings of work, that's a great performance. I know Buehler was much better, but Rich Hill was amazing. So let's start with the whole taking Rich Hill out of the game thing. If you didn't watch Game 3 or just aren't a baseball fan, here's what happened. Rich Hill was pitching great. He went back out for the 7th after the Dodgers had scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning. And Yasiel Puig had just hit a back-breaking 3-run home run. And that's what it was. It was a backbreaker. You could sense among the Red Sox that we just blew this. We had a chance to sweep this series tonight. We had a 3-0 lead in our hands, and we blew it. And now these guys are going to win Game 2. They got their ace pitching tomorrow. And that's what the Dodgers and Dodgers fans felt like. You know, back from the dead, we are 1 out away from getting swept in the World Series. And don't kid yourself, if the Red Sox had won Game 3, the Dodgers would have given up and not even tried to win Game 4. But that's what it felt like. It's like, we got our ace tomorrow. We're going to go back to Boston with the lead, or at least we're going to go back to Boston and see what happens there. And Rich Hill comes out. He gets the first out. I forget whether the walk happened before or after the first out, but basically there was a walk and 1 guy on. And Dave Roberts comes out to talk to Rich Hill. I still don't really understand what happened between Dave Roberts and Rich Hill. Rich Hill said some things to Dave Roberts. I think he said something like, keep an eye on me, and Dave Roberts took that out of context. So that's my understanding of it. So with one guy on and one out, I think it probably happened after it happened after the first out. Dave Roberts comes out to Rich Hill, and Rich Hill is a team player and isn't the type of pitcher that's going to fight to keep the ball in his hand. There's some pitchers in baseball where you literally have to fight them to take the ball out of their hands in crunch time. Rich Hill's not that kind of guy. And Dave Roberts all season had never come out to the mound and not taken a pitcher out of the game. Like that, if you were a pitcher and you saw Dave Roberts coming out, you knew your night was over. So Rich Hill assumes, rightfully so, Dave Roberts is coming out. I'm going to give him the ball because that's being a good teammate. Now, Rich Hill had his back turned to Dave Roberts when he came out of the dugout, and usually when managers come out of the dugout, they signal for the pitcher that they want to come out of the bullpen. That didn't happen, but Rich Hill didn't see that, so Rich Hill wouldn't have known. But anyway, once Rich Hill gives Dave Roberts the ball, he signals for the bullpen, and then a bunch of other stuff happens. So here's what I think you should do in that situation. Number one, and really, this is the pretty easy thing to say. You tell the pitcher, are you sure you want to come out of the game? When Rich Hill hands you the baseball, you say to him, are you sure you want to come out of the game? I'm not taking you out of the game. If you feel you don't have it, then I'll take you out. But if you think you still have it, I'm not taking you out. So you either say that to the pitcher, and don't give me this, it'll mess up took him out of the zone or anything. That's a bunch of hooey. Rich Hill would have been fine if you left him in the game. But here's the other thing, and this is what I think you should do. This is 2018. In the era of limited mound visits, the manager doesn't go out to the mound to take the pitcher out of the game anymore. The manager's job is to take the pitcher out of the game. You have a pitching coach for a reason. And not just a pitching coach. You have the best pitching coach in baseball, Rick Honeycutt. You do not go out there. That is Rick Honeycutt's job. That's what you pay him to do. So anyway, Dave Roberts takes Rich Hill out of the game, and he brings in Scott Alexander. I almost said Sean Alexander. He brings in Scott Alexander. Now, I know you say he should have brought in Pedro Baez, the guy who's on fire, but I don't actually disagree with Scott Alexander coming in that situation. There's one out in the inning. There's one guy on. Scott Alexander is a double play ball specialist. He's a ground ball specialist. So you're hoping that he's going to get you a ground ball double play, which is why I think you should go with him in that situation. Now, he walks someone, and Dave Roberts goes right to Ryan Madson, his favorite guy out of the bullpen. He blew game 2. But before we get into talking about how bad of a pitcher Ryan Madson is, I just want to make this point. If you leave Alexander in the game and the next guy up gets another single and then another single, and they beat you on singles and walks and that kind of stuff, that's okay to deal with. Also, you're up by 4. So if Mitch Moreland, who is the next guy up, if Mitch Moreland hits a single and 1 run scores, whoop-de-doo, you're still up 3. And you have flamethrowers in the bullpen. So that's not an issue. I think Scott Alexander should have been left in the game to try to get the double play ball. And if you were going to take out Scott Alexander, the only guy you bring in, actually, there's 2 guys that you bring in. You either bring in Pedro Baez or Julio Urias. And the one thing about not pitching them, I don't think Dave Roberts said this specifically, but he was resting them. What are you resting them for? This is the World Series. This isn't Tuesday night in San Diego. This is the World Series. If they're not ready, then they don't belong in the major leagues. This is what you're paying them to do. But the number one thing that you don't want to do in that situation is give up a home run. That's the only thing that is going to beat you in that situation. And there were still two guys on. You still would have been winning, but that's the one thing that puts you under pressure, the home run. So what do? Not bring in the guy who's prone to giving up home runs. That's what Ryan Madson's always been home run prone. And Mitch Moreland hit that baseball to Africa. That's the longest home run I've seen hit in Dodger Stadium this season. I don't have any validation to that, but that's the longest one I've seen. So they're still up 4-3. Dodgers didn't get a run in the 8th. And then the 8th inning comes, and he brings in Kenley Jansen in the 8th. He did the exact same thing the night before. Jackie Bradley Jr. hit a home run and tied the game. I forget who tied the game. I forget who tied game 4, but basically the exact same thing happened. In that situation, once again, what are you saving Pedro Baez for? This is the World Series. Like I said, this isn't Tuesday night in San Diego. If it was a Tuesday, if it was a Tuesday night in June, and you're saying, well, we don't want to use Pedro Baez here because we want to save him for other times, fine. But this is the World Series. You don't save your best bullpen arm. Pedro Baez had been pitching better than Kenley Jansen. So he gives up the home run. Dodgers again don't score because why would they score when it matters? And then Kenta Maeda comes into the game and decides to give up more runs. And the Red Sox ended up putting up 9 runs in that inning, so they're up 9-4. And you knew they weren't going to come back. But the thing that pissed me off so much was that Kike Hernandez hit a home run. And if the Dodgers had just been able to get one out in that inning, it would have been a 5-4 game. And don't give me this crap of Craig Kimbrell was only off because he had such a large margin for error, and that if it was a one-run game, he wouldn't have done that. Don't give me that. Craig Kimbrell would have given that home run, whatever the score of that game was. And Craig Kimbrell should send the rest of his lineup a Christmas card, because if they didn't put up those extra runs on Kenta Maeda, that would have been a game-winning home run by Kike Hernandez. And even if it was a 6-4 game, it's a game tie. It either would have been a game tying or a game-winning home run. I think it still would have been a game-winning home run. I forget how many runs came in on the first hit, but it would have been at least a tie game, and then you have the meat of your order coming up. Game 4 was the get all your anger out game. That was so by game 5, you're basically thinking, at least I was, and I know many other people were, whatever happens, happens. I mean, they're not going to win this World Series. I mean, going in, I didn't think they had that good of a chance to win it anyway. But it's just the fact that all the losses that the Dodgers had in that series were caused by bad managerial decisions. So now Game 5 comes, Kershaw, first inning, throws a slider that doesn't slide, Steve Pearce hits it over the wall. And that's when I really started to question this team, and I was thinking, oh, well, this is a repeat of Game 7. 2 runs in the first inning, even though Houston got 3, but that's irrelevant. So they get the runs, and then David Freese comes up and hits a home run. And in the middle of, this is awesome, oh, we're going to come back, we're going to win this game, you're thinking, this is probably going to be the only run they score tonight, because David Freese is the only guy on the Dodgers who was hitting. And then Justin Turner comes up and gets a hit. And everyone was really pissed off at Justin Turner, which I'll get to what Justin Turner did that pissed everyone off later. But the thing that pissed me off was Kike Hernandez. He comes up, and by the way, you don't bat Kike Hernandez third in an elimination game. You just don't. I can't get over how mad that made me that they batted Kike Hernandez third. But anyway, he comes up with Justin Turner on first. The first pitch grounds into a double play. And that's when the thought was, that home run's going to be the only run we score this whole game. And then in the third inning, David Freese gifted the Dodgers a triple. And this is the moment that everyone got so pissed off at Justin Turner at. He with a runner on third, he swings at the first pitch. And I forget what he did, actually, because I wasn't watching the game. I turned Sunday Night Football on during the commercial, and the commercial lasted shorter than I thought it would. So I missed what happened, but he got out with less than 2 outs. And, it just goes back to the thing in baseball all season of the fear of the sacrifice fly. Like, I know, like, maybe 30 years ago you would have tried a squeeze bunt. You're not doing that anymore, but just the fear of the sacrifice fly. No one does that anymore. And, that's a season that's a area that's screaming for a sacrifice fly. But anyway, the Dodgers didn't really get anything for the rest of that game. I forget how many base runners they had for the rest of that game. But David Price destroyed the he can't pitch in the postseason narrative. He won 3 games in the playoffs. So now that my World Series recap is over, let's go to the offseason. The Dodgers have already re-signed several players. They picked up David Freese's team option that they had. They picked up Dave Roberts' option. And then they've offered qualifying offers to Hyun-Jin Ryu, Yasmani Grandal, their free agents that are eligible for qualifying offers. The only other guys who would give QOs to, Manny Machado and Brian Dozier, are not eligible since you traded for them. So really, you give QOs to Grandal and Hyun-Jin Ryu, and if you don't re-sign them, then you get the compensation draft pick. The other big thing is that they re-signed Clayton Kershaw to a 3-year deal, which means that he didn't opt into his current contract. They basically gave him the exact same amount of money with an extra year on it. And that really essentially means that Clayton Kershaw is going to be a Dodger for life. Because I really don't, unless he turns into a Cy Young pitcher, which I don't think he's going to, Clayton Kershaw is going to be with the Dodgers for the rest of his career. No one is going to want to pick him up in his age 33, 34 season. So looking at the Dodgers' current roster, there's a lot of surplus on it. Their outfield is stacked. And I don't necessarily mean stacked that it's like the best outfield in the league. There's a lot of players in that outfield. And there's a lot of guys that there's going to be trade talks around. And who's going to be on this team come spring training and everything. So here's the guys that you know, and I'm not considering Cody Bellinger in the outfielder area at this moment. I think that his position is best at first base. So in the outfield, they have Matt Kemp, Joc Pederson, Andrew Toles, Kike Hernandez, Tim Locastro, Alex Verdugo, Yasiel Puig, and Chris Taylor, all outfielders. Now, Chris Taylor might get thrown around, put at the infield, we don't know. But for the sake of this, I'm going to say Chris Taylor is an outfielder. Not all of those guys are going to be on the team come spring training, and that's reasonable to expect. Now, there's only really 2 guys in the outfield that I would say are untouchables. Do not trade Puig. Do not trade Alex Verdugo. Anyone else, I don't really care about. They wouldn't trade Kike Hernandez because having someone like him is really valuable because Kike Hernandez can play everywhere. So if someone's injured and you need him for a spot start, that's why he's there. So, but really the 2 guys that I say are untouchables are Puig and Alex Verdugo. And then the other guys you have are Tim Locastro, Andrew Toles, Joc Pederson, Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp, it was great that you came back and you got to have your all-star season and go to a World Series with the Dodgers. I think Matt Kemp is going to be a DFA candidate at some point. If he's not traded, which that contract is unmovable, so I don't think Matt Kemp's going to be traded. I think at some point Matt Kemp is going to be DFA'd and will not be on the Dodgers anymore. Then you have Joc Pederson. The problem with Joc Pederson is he can't hit a lefty. Joc Pederson physically cannot hit a lefty. So that's the problem with him. Other than that, he's a great player, but he just can't hit a lefty. Andrew Toles is a big question mark. I have no idea what's going to happen with him. He and Tim Locastro are kind of falling into the guys who are there. Andrew Toles has been hurt. Tim Locastro just hasn't had a chance. And both of them are going to get their chances in spring training. And one of them is going to make the roster. I think, and one of them is not going to make the roster. But so you have those guys. So that's the outfield situation. Going to the infield, you have Cody Bellinger and Max Muncy. Max Muncy may be a possible trade candidate. I don't think you should trade him. He hit 35 home runs, but he also could be a regression candidate. I'm thinking that he's my regression candidate. You always have a guy who's going to be a regression candidate, and I think it could be Max Muncy. So maybe you think about it, is this the time we trade Max Muncy and try to get some value out of him before his value drops when he doesn't hit as many home runs as he had last season? David Freese, play David Freese every day. I really don't care. Find a place to put him, play him every day. Well, not every day, but play him most of the time. Corey Seager's coming back off his Tommy John surgery, which everyone is really excited about. We're going to see how they play that with Corey Seager coming back. I think I was saying Kike Hernandez. I just have him on my mind. Corey Seager is coming back. We'll see how they throw him around, where they put him, because they're not going to throw him right into the shortstop position and just say go. That's why you hold on. That's why I think they hold on to Chris Taylor. Also, Chris Taylor can play second, which they don't have a second baseman. Justin Turner is getting older. He did seem like he had some kind of injury. I hope Justin Turner can stay awesome for another couple seasons. But don't be surprised if you see the age regression come from Justin Turner. And then Cody Bellinger, year 3 will really tell a lot. Year 3 has told a lot for Dak Prescott in the NFL, and year 3 is going to tell a lot for Cody Bellinger. What kind of a hitter is he going to be? Is he going to be a 40, 35, 40 home run guy? Is he going to be a 20, 25 home run guy? Is he going to be in the middle? We don't know. We'll find out year 3. And then the catcher position, that there needs to be an answer for that. Yasmani Grandal is probably not going to be back, and I don't care that he had a terrible postseason. Yasmani Grandal is a catcher who hit 25 home runs. That is a position that is sorely lacking on so many teams. Yasmani Grandal is probably the second best offensive catcher in the league. He doesn't play defense that well, but a catcher who can hit 25 home runs, that's going to be a very hot commodity. And Yasmani Grandal would be stupid to accept that qualifying offer. And then with the guys, you do have Austin Barnes, Kyle Farmer, and Rocky Gale. Those are all guys in the 40-man. Austin Barnes, his defense is great. His offense is not. So don't build your future catcher around Austin Barnes. Now, the thing with the Dodgers, they have 2 young prospects who are very, very highly touted, Keibert Ruiz and Will Smith, but they're not major league ready yet. So you ask yourself the question, what do we do with them? Do we bite the bullet and deal with Austin Barnes for another whole season, which I don't think you can do. I don't want them to do, and I really honestly don't think they will do. Or do we go out and sign a veteran catcher like Jonathan Lucroy to a 1-year deal? Maybe sign a Wilson Ramos, all-star catcher from the American League? Or the big thing that's being thrown around, do you trade for JT Realmuto, Marlins catcher? Now, knowing this Dodgers front office, they will. I mean, the past 2 trade deadlines, they've traded for the most highly desired candidate on the trade deadline. Manny Machado in 2018, Yu Darvish in 2017. Now, we all hate Yu Darvish because of Game 7, but Yu Darvish was the guy that everyone wanted. And the Dodgers were able to get him. So that's why I have faith that the Dodgers front office would be able to get a JT Realmuto. Here's the question, though. What are you going to have to give up? And you're not going to be able to give up just prospects. And guys over on Dodgers Nation podcast were saying this, and I kind of agree with them. A package that would include Caleb Ferguson, Alex Wood, and one of your outfielders, either Jock Peterson or Yasiel Puig. I would tend to favor Jock Peterson because Jock Peterson is very specialized and can only really hit against lefties. But for JT Realmuto, I wouldn't be sad to see Andrew Toles go. I wouldn't be sad to see Matt Kemp go. Again, the only guy that would piss me off to see him go is Yasiel Puig, and you're not going to give up Alex Verdugo. So you're not going to see those two guys go. So whatever they decide to do, that's on them. Now let's go to the pitching rotation. The pitching rotation is going to be something that's talked about a lot. Who's in, who's out. They have a lot of guys who did start for them in 2018 that are not all going to be in the starting rotation. This is what I think the starting rotation looks like in 2019. Walker Buehler is your ace. Julio Urias is your number 2. Clayton Kershaw is your 3. If Rich Hill accepts the qualifying offer, Rich Hill is your 4. And then, or not Rich Hill, Hyun-Jin Ryu. If Hyun-Jin Ryu accepts a qualifying offer, he's your 4. And then Rich Hill is your 5. Now, if Hyun-Jin Ryu does not accept the qualifying offer and you're not able to get him, then you play around with Kenta Maeda, Ross Stripling, and assuming he's not traded, Alex Wood. But that, by and large, that's what that rotation is going to be. Buehler, Urias, Kershaw, Hill, those guys are for certain in the bullpen. And then you throw around, where's Ross Stripling going to go? Where's Kenta Maeda going to go? Where's all these other guys going to go? Alex Wood, I think, is trade bait. I would like to see, if he is traded, I would like to see him traded for a JT Realmuto. But that's really it. I mean, there's nothing really else that you can do. Now, with free agents, do not touch Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, if you guys hated Manny Machado, you're not going to like Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper doesn't run out any ground balls. Bryce Harper doesn't hustle to catch a lot of fly balls. Don't go after Bryce Harper. You don't want that. Other guys that they could go after, Patrick Corbin, maybe. I want them to go after Nathan Eovaldi. Nathan Eovaldi was amazing. And the Dodgers need a right-handed starter. They're very left-handed heavy. They need another right-hander. And whatever you decide to do with Nate Eovaldi, I'm hearing a lot that teams that are going after him may make him a closer or a bullpen guy. Whether you do that, whether he is a starter, he's a guy who can throw heat. Whatever you want to do with him. So I think you go after him. Another guy. You also have to fix up your bullpen. So whether they go out and they get a guy like Zach Britton or a guy like Andrew Miller or Adam Ottavino from the Rockies, who's a free agent, but that's the last team he played for. So whoever they go at, they're going to go after people and they're going to get someone. Whether it's through a trade, they're going to get someone through a trade, possibly. They're going to get people from free agents. So that's how the offseason is going to play out. And also, quick final thing, Andrew Friedman is now the general manager. Farhan Zaidi is going to become the Andrew Friedman of the Giants. Get out of my face. Never want to see anything about Farhan Zaidi again. He's officially dead. So now that I've got that all in, thank you for tuning into Freeway Findings. Remember to follow on Twitter and Instagram. I'll have a link below in the description. I'll also have a link below for Sports and Coast to Coast. You can go check that out. That's where I just talk about sports in general and not just LA stuff. Thank you.